Welcome back to Circle of Vitality. Well, this is your last week. You've made it all 16 weeks. Congratulations. Today we're going to make a gluten-free pancake. It is cooked, and you can use whatever grains that you want. If you don't want to make it gluten-free, you can use wheat or rye, barley. Today we're going to use, or you could use spelt, we're going to use oats and sorghum molasses flour. So it's sorghum flour. So to start with, we're going to go ahead and take our bowl. We're going to get 1 cup of sorghum flour. This is a good alternative for those who are trying to be gluten-free or need to be gluten-free. And then this is oats. I just took organic oats. Oats are gluten-free, but if they're not certified organic, they could be contaminated in the field by other grains. And so for those who have a true gluten allergy or celiac disease, you need to get certified oats, certified organic. But I just put these in a Vitamix. Just put about that much in and turned it on, used the tamper and pushed it around, and it made flour. So that's how I make oat flour. And I love oat flour in pancakes. So we're just going to do a cup of each. And a tablespoon of baking powder. Just about a half a teaspoon of salt, maybe a little bit less. And today I'm going to use a vanilla extract. It's a concentrate, it's organic, it's for culinary use. I'm just going to put about 10 drops in. You can use regular vanilla if you like, that's what I happen to have on hand. And I think that's all of the, no, flaxseed. We're going to put 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. Again, if you have whole flaxseed, just put it in your Vitamix or spice grinder, coffee grinder, and then grind it. Flaxseed is actually best if it's ground right away. It keeps it from going rancid. If you are going to grind it or buy it ground, make sure you keep it in your freezer. So that's just about 2 tablespoons of that. And I'm just going to mix this up. And we'll let that sit there. Then in the Vitamix, you can use the applesauce. The recipe calls for about 4 tablespoons, 1/4 of a cup of applesauce. And I don't buy applesauce anymore. If I want to make it, or if I need applesauce, I just throw apples in the Vitamix. So that's what we're going to do today. Again, organic apples, you can keep the skin on them. If they're not organic, make sure you peel them. Get rid of as many pesticides as you can. And then almond milk. If you use a sweetened or a vanilla almond milk, you can leave out the vanilla. You don't need to add extra sweetener into this. This is unsweetened, original almond milk. I try to buy unsweetened anytime I can. There's occasionally I'll use sweetened or vanilla almond milk for dessert recipes. For the chia milk, I like that, or the chia pudding. Okay, so I'm going to start with about 1.5 cups. And because I want this to be a little sweeter, we can use agave or honey, but I am going to use a little bit of banana. So I'm just going to use about 1/2 of this really ripe banana. This is when they're speckled like this. This is when I like to use them for baking or in smoothies. So I'm going to put that in there to try to keep from having to use any additional sweeteners. And we're going to turn this up and just blend it. And there we have our applesauce and milk combined. So I'm going to pour this in here. And it may seem thin at first, but with the flaxseed, it will thicken up. And the sorghum flour sometimes takes a little bit longer to absorb some liquid. Not always. So we'll mix this up. I made this once. I didn't have baking powder on hand. Since I'm not used to baking, I didn't have any. And they were real dense. The flavor was good, but they were very, very dense. Okay, we have our skillet here. This is coconut oil, just organic virgin coconut oil. I'm just going to put a little bit in the pan and let it melt at room temperature. It is liquid, and if you have air conditioner on or your kitchen is cold or it's winter, they'll tend to be a solid. But as soon as it gets warm, it turns into a liquid. Okay, this is, to me, it's a little bit thick for how I like pancakes, so I'm going to add the rest of that 2 cups in. You could use a whisk if you'd like on this. Again, this is a great recipe for kids to help with. It's kind of fun to see how you can take oatmeal, take oats, and put them in the Vitamix and have flour. Most children don't know where flour comes from, or they don't see the grains before they're ground. So it's a good way to introduce how we process food and make it to what we want to kids and grandkids. And then we're going to, I think we're going to put a cup of blueberries in here. Just mix that around. I'm going to add a few more. All right, let me see if this, yep, it's hot. So we're just going to, this is a 1/3 cup measure that I'm using. Just a scant 1/3 cup. So we're just going to let that sit. There's actually a little bit much oil in there. Once you get them going, you don't need to oil it every time, just to keep it from sticking. So with the pancakes, we're going to let them get kind of bubbly around the edges and in the middle. A little thicker in the middle. And then we'll give them a flip. And I serve my pancakes with pure maple syrup. One thing that my family enjoyed when my girls were little is we would take applesauce. We would take apples and put them in the blender and then put them on a stove with a little bit of honey and cinnamon and dice up another part of an apple, just tiny little dices, and throw that in with it and cook it down, and it would get this thick, yummy, cinnamony applesauce. And that would be warm, and we'd put that, it's kind of like a compote, and we'd put that over the fruit, over the pancakes. So now that you've gone through many weeks of eating differently, of exercising, thinking differently about yourself, hopefully you've lost some of the weight that you've wanted, you've found you're happy, you've changed some habits, you've added some new habits in. And one of the things I want to remind you that your journey isn't over. Just because the challenge is over, that doesn't mean your journey is over. You've learned much. Remember why you changed your habits. Remember the habits that you changed from and the habits that you've added into your life. And as you think about that, when life gets tough and you find yourself wanting to go back to old ways, ask yourself, what was your why? Why did you want to do this in the first place? Go back to that and let that be your focus to push you through to that next place, because sometimes challenges come, difficulties come. We become weak in some areas when we really want to be strong. And when we can remember why we're doing something, it makes it so much easier to move forward. Now, pancakes, for me, I would rather have pancakes for lunch than for breakfast, because I like a lighter breakfast. But I do enjoy these when my granddaughter and grandkids come to visit. We always make pancakes, and this is one of their favorites. So I just encourage you to try some new recipes. If you have a favorite pancake recipe, try making it without sweeteners, without regular milk. Use some nut milk. You don't have to use eggs, if you noticed, with these, and they'll still be fluffy, and that's what the flaxseed does. You can actually replace eggs with flaxseed. If you take the ground flaxseed like this, just take about 2 tablespoons and put it in 1/4 to 1/2 cup of water and whisk it up and let it congeal. And then you take about 2 tablespoons of that to replace each egg. And it does the same thing. It looks like an egg white. I mean, it feels like it, that it's kind of gelatinous, but it will do what the eggs do. All right, so there we have pancakes, and just use a little bit of applesauce or pure maple syrup. Pour over that and enjoy. You have a nice breakfast. Now again, this makes quite a bit, so if you need to, we just use 1 cup of each of the flours. If you need to cut it down, you can just cut the recipe in half if you're just wanting to make some, but you can also stick this in your fridge. If you want to add the blueberries later, you can freeze this. Pull it out of your freezer, add the blueberries, and you might add a little bit more of the almond milk to thin it. But that way you have a easy breakfast. Or you can make your pancakes and freeze them and warm them up and eat them. So again, I hope that you are enjoying the choices you've made along your journey. Continue to make better choices today so tomorrow can be your best, so you can live in optimum health. Enjoy.